So let us continue with today's session. In the previous session, we studied about the resources and development, the introductory part, where we have covered what is a resource and the types of resources, what is the inequality that has happened, how development of resources is happening, what are all the global crises, and we also studied about a global summit that was held in Rio de Janeiro and which decided for Agenda 21. So that was where we stopped. Let's continue further. So today we will be discussing about resource planning. Okay, we understood resource means it can be a land, water, or the forest, or the petrol or diesel which is available on the earth. All these are resources. Even human being is a resource. We have to use that resource in a plan because of uneven distribution of the resources. There are two categories called rags and riches in this world, right? Because earlier, for people whoever first went and occupied the resource, they became rich, and the backward communities who didn't have any resources became rags, which means they are poor. So resource is not well planned. That is why in the society there is two kind of people, that is the poor and rich. We need to properly plan the resources, and it has to be distributed to each and every citizen. Who does that? It is done by the governments or the governing body of any country. So resource planning says that planning is the widely accepted strategy for judicious usage of resources. Why do you have to do the planning? Because of judicious usage of resources. Okay, what is this judicious? Something concerned with law. We know that water is available for us to drink and to use for domestic purpose. So can we use water like in any extent? Can we waste water? No. Water has to be preserved. Similarly, due to human beings' greed, lot of forests have been cut. So that has to be stopped now. We need to grow more plants rather than cutting. We have to move towards afforestation rather than deforestation. Similarly, many more like that. We must conserve the wild animals. Many more things. We should judiciously use the resources. Judicious is using properly, and it should be bounded to law, subjected to law. Okay, if you spoil any environmental resource, then it is a criminal offense. So that is why the word is used, judicious usage of resource. For this, there is a planning. The government puts up a plan, each and every individual has to follow that. So it has importance in a country like India, which has enormous diversity in the availability of resources. So we are living in a diverse country. Diverse is what? We have multiple types of cultures, people, religion, and as well as resources. We have gold reserve, we have minerals, we have the other resources like forest, wildlife. Then there is many rivers flowing in this country. So all kind of resources are available. Even Mahatma Gandhi told that we have what is available for our need, but not for our greed. In this country, to survive, we have everything. But somebody who is greed to make money out of it or to become rich, then this is not the country. Because we have huge population, right? Only one person cannot eat up all the resources. That is why he said need not for greed. Okay? So in a country like India, we have to judiciously use the resources since we are large in number. There are regions which are rich in certain types of minerals and they lack certain type of technology. Now let us take an example. India, we have good amount of spices, minerals, gold reserves, wildlife forest, but we don't have abundant amount of fuel. That is why we depend on Middle East countries for the petrol and diesel, isn't it? We have few things, but we doesn't have other things. Let's take Rajasthan. Rajasthan has lot of sunlight falling on it. We have considered it as desert, so we are not growing any crops there. But it can be positively used to generate solar energy. Similarly, the wind energy can be made use of. But that is not happening. As I told in yesterday's class, we have resource but we don't have technology. Some places we have technology but we are not making it, we are not using that to the core. Okay, here are some examples like the states Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh are rich in coal deposits and minerals. Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, almost all middle India and north India. Okay, it comes to the it comes somewhere here. Okay, above the middle India and below the north India. So Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, and Chhattisgarh, they have rich in minerals and coal deposits. That is why we have many power stations there, power plants which are set up by the government to extract those golds and minerals and the coal deposited. But they lack in something else. Maybe it is not fit for agriculture. There are no many rivers flowing in these places. So it is lacking something else, but it has something good for us also. And if you take the Ladakh is to the north of India, which is a cold desert. Okay, it is covered with lot of snow. Okay, it is a tourist place. So tourism is promoted because it is beautiful. It has it is good to tourism because it has good hill stations and beautiful sceneries are available for the tourists. Not many things, but here the agriculture is not possible since we have all the time snow or hailstones falling here. It is not favorable for agriculture. So this is where India is lagging behind. We have resources unevenly distributed throughout the country. So what is the next step that any government or a person who is handling all these resources should plan for? So resources planning in India will involve multiple steps. Since we are diverse, we don't have coal deposits throughout the country. We don't have good environment or snowish environment throughout the country. So how do we plan? Resource planning in India involves certain steps. First step is identifying what kind of resource is available in that particular area. First is identifying the resource, and then after identifying, a survey will be conducted. What is survey? Survey is kind of study or a research where certain officials go there and they understand to what extent the resources are available. Let's say they go and conduct a survey in Jharkhand. Okay, they have mineral deposits. So they'll start analyzing what kind of minerals are present. Is it a gold or iron or bauxite, copper? Till what extent it is available? Is it abundant in quantity or a little bit in quantity? And they will also conduct mapping. Mapping is they will estimate the land. Jharkhand, let's say this is the map of Jharkhand. Throughout Jharkhand, the minerals are not available. Maybe to the east of Jharkhand, there will be mineral deposits. So they will make a marking. That is mapping. Initially, they will explore where the resources are there. Secondly, they will conduct a survey. Thirdly, they will do a mapping. Once mapping is done, what do? They will check for the qualitative and quantitative resource. What is this word? Qualitative and quantitative means, let's say we got iron. Okay, iron has multiple types in it. Pure iron, pig iron, cast iron, etc. So which is good, which is favorable to use. So that is what qualitative. Okay, even in if you see, even in gold we have different categories: 22 carat, 24 carat. Isn't it KDM? Then some other purity according to their strength or purity. We have different types of metals available. So that quality will be checked. And even for the soil. Soil is, we have soil throughout the country. Can we grow the sugarcane throughout the country? No. Sugarcane needs a kind of soil. Cotton needs black soil. Then rice needs a different type of soil. So there are different types of soil. The quality has to be checked. That is called qualitative analysis. Then quantitative. Let's say Jharkhand and Madhya Pradesh both have mineral deposits. Which state has maximum deposits? The government has to first concentrate on the maximum deposit. Let's say Madhya Pradesh has 1,000 tons of iron deposited. So they'll first send the team to set up an office or set up a power plant, and then they start the mining in Madhya Pradesh. Because rather than going for a small segment, they'll opt for bigger segment because it is all huge investment to extract the minerals. So this is called quantitative analysis. So once that is done, quantitative and qualitative estimation is done, then starts the evolving a planning structure endowed with appropriate technology. Then comes a planning. In that planning, the people will decide what kind of technology has to be used. See, students, for analyzing the soil, certain type of laboratory tests should be conducted. That is a different technology. For extracting minerals, we need huge machineries. The mining team has to come, they have to dig, and the machines have to be sent inside. The canals should be constructed, and then the ore should be extracted. So they will decide what technology should be used. Okay, all this comprises resource planning in India. Fine. Can we remember the steps? Surveying, mapping, first they will identify where the resource is available, then surveying, mapping, qualitative and quantitative estimation, then they will decide which technology to be used. That is called resource planning in India. Moving ahead. Okay, so the availability of resources is necessary condition for the development of any region, but mere availability of resources in the absence of corresponding changes in technology may hinder the development. Okay, any country will first decide, should we take that decision to go and opt for that area. Okay, let's say any state which has mineral deposits. So first thing they'll check is availability. If there is no availability, why should the government bother to go and install its equipment, or why will that invest over that region? So first thing is availability checkup, and then do we have that technology? So talking about technology is India may not have all the defense equipment that is needed. So what India will do, if it is possible, it will start manufacturing it. Otherwise, it will purchase from the country which can supply. Presently, the PPE kits, which is required to test whether the person is positive to COVID-19 or not, they are using PPE kits which is supplied by China. Then later they started taking it from a different country. So similarly, if there is no technology available for us, even then the resource planning is not success. Okay, you have to purchase the technology, or you need to build your own technology. Okay, so the history of colonization reveals that rich resources in colonies were the main attraction for the foreign trade. Talking about a little bit of history, why did India got invaded by different foreign traders? Okay, we know that British people came to India, then Portuguese, Dutch, French, all these people came here. Why did they come? Because we had good amount of resources, and good amount of resources, again, it was unevenly distributed. Basically, South India, we had lot of gold deposits, it had lot of spices, so a lot more things like that. Hence, people started coming to South India. That was one of the reasons, and the other reason was sea route was near to the South India. Okay, so in the history, if we check, the colonies were unevenly distributed with the resources. Because of this reason, the invaders came to India. Okay, then therefore the resources can contribute to the development when they are accompanied by appropriate development and technology. Okay, this is about the invading. Even now we have some of the resources left out. So to explore the resource, what is needed? A proper planning which is needed for development, and other one is the technology. We are discussing the two things again and again. We need to make a plan and we need technology. Planning and technology. Okay, so this has to be brought into picture. What is planning and technology? Both are needed to explore those resources. Now, there is a concept called conservation of resources. Planning, technology, everything is done. Are we conserving the resources? Conserving is what? Saving. Saving it for future. We have water which is the purest form of water is flowing in the rivers. but what is happening to the rivers? We are putting all the unwanted garbages and the factory waste into the rivers. Hence, the rivers are getting polluted. We have good amount of air available in the atmosphere, which can be used for breathing and also for other purposes. But we are spoiling that again. We are cutting all the trees. We are killing animals. We are each and every house is getting a borewell and all the groundwater is being extracted. Groundwater recharge is not happening. Everyone wants to have a borewell and take the water, but nobody wants to practice rainwater harvesting. Only if we practice rainwater harvesting, then the water in the ground level will get recharged. So those things has to be taken care. How do you save your resource? That is called conservation of resources. So resources are vital for development of any country. So as I told, if the country has to develop, we need good companies, good leaders, we need good citizens, education. Along with all, we need a good resource. Okay, all the resources should be preserved. But irrational consumption and overutilization are leading to not underdevelopment of a country. Irrational development and overconsumption, or overconsumption and overutilization. Both mean the same. Irrational consumption is there is no planning, but the resource is being consumed. Let's say a person who is near to a forest starts taking all its resources like the honey, what is being collected, the medicinal value, and is there any sandalwood available, or the timber, teak. Everything will be explored by a single person or a powerful politician. That is called irrational consumption. And overutilization. Overutilization is, let's say there is a grass field, you allow the cows to go and graze days together. Within a week or a month, it will be overgrazed, and this creates soil erosion. Correct? If all the grasses are being eaten, then the land becomes barren. Once the heavy wind blows or the heavy rain comes, the soil will erode. That creates soil erosion. So, to avoid that, we need to stop irrational consumption and overutilization. We are talking about conserving the resource. So here comes again the words of Mahatma Gandhi. He says, the resources available in India is for the need of people, but not for the greed of people. He told this before independence itself. Why did he make that statement? Because once India gets its independence, the leaders of India should not exploit the resources. But his words were only heard, but nobody followed it. The leaders or the people who were in the power have utilized the resources abundantly and they have created inequality in the society. And if you see, at a global level, the resources are getting depleted. Depleted is misused, or it is getting over. All the resources are getting over, isn't it? Now we are living in an era where we are paying money for drinking water. We are paying money for, in future, we will be paying money for oxygen also. So we will reach to that extent. Why? Because they are depleting all the resources. Everything is getting over. So when the demand increase and the supply decrease, the price will increase. Let's say there is only little amount of water left and there are crores together of population. What is that situation called? Demand is more, but availability is less. So what the people will do then? They will increase the price. So this should not happen. And Mahatma Gandhi told that at an international level, if you take a statement, small things or small is beautiful. What is this word small is beautiful? Rather than going for a big plan or big vision, if you make the things simple and smaller, then that looks beautiful. Let us take an example. So nowadays, all these powerful people who can cheat the citizens or the public are making their own properties in abundant manner, right? They are looting. Why is that happening? Because the greed is so big. So how much ever they loot, it is still not enough for them. So they do mass production. Mass production is what? They manufacture many vehicles or they manufacture a lot of things. they produce a lot of goods and they sell it to common people. So it is mass production. Why are they doing it in bigger way? Because to make money. Now comes the statement, make it simple. Let your greed become small. If you opt for little things, then even others can be happy. Okay, so one example is during COVID-19, whoever has money, they are running to the markets or to the shops, they are taking all the items if they can purchase because they have money. What about the poor people? They are first of all incapable to purchase the things, and in the shops we have already looted everything. We have brought all the rations back to home. They don't have any groceries left, they don't have any household items left. So that is told in a simple word, small is beautiful. This word has been used in it is used in a book, Small is Beautiful, written by Schumacher. This is originally taken from Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy. Okay, and there is one more book published called Our Common Future. Okay, in this book, they discuss only about sustainable development. What is sustainable development? Use the environment in a safer way and give it adequately to the next generation. And the same things were discussed in 1992 summit that was held in, this was a Global Earth Summit which was held in Rio de Janeiro. Okay. Okay, next we will move on to the land resources. Okay, so moving on further, let us understand what are the land resources available in India. Land resource is the place where we are living, the terrestrial environment. There are three types of land basically if we have to categorize. That is the plains, plateaus and mountain regions. Okay, so plain region is a formal and a good area for cultivation and to construct buildings or factories or to build a city, etc. Plateau is quite similar to plain, but it has irregular measurements on the land and irregular lowlands or highlands which is available. Whereas mountains are, you know that, mountain areas cannot be much used for building any houses or for cultivation or to build any factories, etc. So in India, 27% of the land is plateau and 43% is plain and the remaining 30% is mountain. Okay, so good that we have 43% of plain area where we can construct houses or practice agriculture, and it's possibly it has. Okay, the land resource, what does it contain? It contains minerals, it has rivers, it has forests, etc. So all these are a kind of reserves for us, resources for us. Minerals can be used to make profit. Rivers are used to generate electricity and give irrigation facility for agriculture. Forest contains plants, animals, trees, medicinal equipment, etc. Lot many things are available in the forest. And even if the forest is the trees which are there in forest dies and if it gets decomposed, then we can extract fuel from that, but not in a short span, but for a longer duration I am talking about. So this is about the land resources. Now, how are we utilizing this land? Utilizing is usage of the land. Why is it used for? What are the different types of land? Firstly, the land contains forest. Okay, I am talking about land utilization. Utilization means usage. Firstly, land is used to grow the forest. Okay, forest you can understand. Then the land is used for agriculture. Agriculture is growing our desired crop. Then the land is used for building houses, for infrastructure, houses, factories, etc. to build a city. Then there is a kind of land called fallow land. Fallow land is you don't cultivate anything for 1 or less than 1 year. Then the land is called as fallow land. You don't practice agriculture in that land. Leave it barren like that itself. That is called a fallow land. Then the current fallow land is left. Presently, if we take a survey of India's land resource, there is about 1 to 5 past agricultural years which has made the land to be remain uncultivated. That is, if there are any fallow lands available in India today, which means about 1 to 5 years of time, they have not cultivated anything. Let us say you explore one fallow land in Karnataka. If you go and check how many years back the cultivation had happened, it will be between 1 to 5 years. Okay, they have not cultivated it, they have left it alone. Why is that happening? Because let's say I was living in a village or a rural area, I had got 2 acres of land. But I have a passion of coming to city and study and explore a job. So I left my place like that itself. Nobody is going there and cultivating. I came to city about 3 years back. So now my land is called as fallow land. Understood? So this has become a trend. India was an agricultural country, but most of the population is getting migrated from village to town. When they are coming to the cities, their lands are left as fallow land. Then some lands are unfit for cultivation. They are called as uncultivated land. Fallow land had a reason. There was nobody to cultivate, hence it was left like that. But some fields or some land cannot be cultivated. Now let us say the land which has more of pebbles or stones or rocks. Can we cultivate plants there? No, because plants have to grow by growing their roots deeply. The deep-rooted plants will go and touch the rocks which are present in the soil, and it will not get the available minerals and water. Hence, that land is now called as uncultivated land. Okay. Then there is areas called as net sown area. Okay, areas sown more than once in an agricultural year plus net sown area is known as gross cropped area. Okay. Now, what is this net sown area? Lands which are under miscellaneous tree crops group. Let us say you have 5 acres of land. Okay. In that 5 acres of land, you will be growing. You don't grow anything, but by naturally some trees will grow there, and you don't want to remove those trees. Okay. Now, wherever there are trees which have grown, that is called as net sown area. Okay, you did not plant, but it happened. You don't want to remove those trees. Whatever is available for you, there you will make your cultivation. Now, together if you collect all these net sown areas, then that gives you gross sown area. Overall, throughout the country, you count all the net sown areas, it gives you gross sown area. Okay, so this is land utilization in India. Next we will go land use pattern in India. What is the pattern that people are following? Where are certain kind of plants grown? In which type of land? You will see that. Okay. Land use pattern in India says that the use of land is determined by both physical factors, topographical factors, climate, soil type, etc., and also human factors. This depends on the physical factors. You might have studied in biology, our environment, what are the physical factors? That is the light availability, the rain availability, then the air, good amount of air or wind blowing towards that field. That matters, physical factors. Then climatic condition, how often the rain comes and how often it gets wind or etc. Climatic conditions. Because rain is very essential. If there is a river or a dam nearby, no problem. But not every land will be accessible for rivers and dams. Hence, they depend on rain, or they have to go for opting a borewell or a artificial water system. But that is again a challenge. Rain is a good idea to wait for. Then the human factors. Then the topography. Topography is the kind of soil or the kind of environment which has around. So, as we know, certain in South India, rice and paddy are the rice and ragi are the main crops because the soil is suitable for those kind of crops. In North India, if you see, wheat is produced in a big large way. Okay, so that all these are all the factors which makes the land use pattern available for people. Okay, so now we will take an example here. Along with these factors, there are again added factors like population. If there is more population, then agriculture is possible there, right? Because you need human beings to go and work on the field, and technology is again needed. Earlier, the drip irrigation system and the seed drill machines, many more things were not available. But now technology is also influencing the agriculture and the usage of land. Okay, so here they say an example that total geographical area of India is 3.28 million square kilometer. Geographical area is the place available for us is 3.28 million square kilometer. They are talking about the area. The land use data, however, available for us is 93% of the total. So in this 3.28, 93% can be made use of. Other 7% may be not usable for us, where we can expect a big mountains or rivers, etc., where we cannot cultivate or we cannot use that land. Okay, and they say here 93% of the total geographical area, because the land use reporting for most of the northeast states except Assam has not been done fully. Okay. Moreover, some areas like Jammu and Kashmir are occupied by Pakistan and China as per the survey. This remaining 7% is not about the mountains or the river. They are talking about Jammu and Kashmir. We cannot go and use this land for building factories or for agricultural purpose, because it is occupied by Pakistan still. There is a fight, right? India is not letting the Pakistan for them, but Pakistan is frequently asking us to give Jammu and Kashmir for them. So during this fight, this place cannot be controlled by the government of India. It belongs to us, but we cannot go there and build a factory. Let's say we build the factory. After 5 years, if this region goes to them, then our resources will be given to the other country. So a lot of challenges. Hence, 7% of land cannot be used. Okay. Then we have a small pie chart that will give us the picture of land usage pattern in India. Okay, this pie chart says this is 45.26%, which is forest area. This portion is all forest, and then it is again subdivided 18%, 12%, 4%, almost 4, 1, 3%, etc. There are many divisions. What are these small areas? 21%, 4%, 3%, 1%. All these are the barren lands. Barren is the land which is not cultivated for long years, or it is not fit to be cultivated. And the areas which are under non-agricultural uses. Non-agricultural uses are the areas where factories are built, where godowns are built, or we have a dam project coming up. So those areas are called non-agricultural usage area. Then there are permanent pastures and grazing lands. Pastures and grazing lands are a kind of land which is left only for grazing animals. It is kind of grassland where only cows, goats and etc. will go there and eat up the grass. You cannot construct any buildings, or you cannot use that for agricultural purpose. That is called grazing lands and pastures. And there are other areas where miscellaneous tree crops and groups are raised. Means if you see on the way nearby any highways, towards either side of the highways there will be a lot of trees which are grown. It is neither public property, it is not private property, it belongs to government, but where the trees have been grown for the shade, because on the highways the vehicles have to stop for resting, so there will be some space left out. Those lands will come under these part. Okay, what did we discuss? We discussed about unagricultural usage lands. Then we discussed about barren and not fit for agricultural lands. We discussed about pastures and grazing land, and there are lands where trees and groups are and many more like that. Maybe some area is occupied by a dam, some areas by highways, roadways, etc. All these lands cannot be used. Okay. Then there is one more pie chart which says that the fallow lands, then current fallow lands, net zone areas, which we discussed a few minutes back, that is land utilized and under the land utilization. Fallow lands are the lands which are not cultivated between 1 to 5 years. Net zone areas are areas where it is unfit to cultivate anything. Okay, let's say the land is barren or it contains lot of pebbles or etc. Okay, that's all for today. We'll discuss about land degradation and conservation measures and soil as a resource in the next session. Thank you so much.